Parents have lots of concerns when they send their children off to college. Safety is high on that list. Sometimes the biggest concerns over safety stem from fraternities and sororities. Hazing has kept these organizations under scrutiny for a long time. At some schools, these groups are the gateways to and gatekeepers of social life on campus. The parents of 19-year-old Danny Santulli just sued the Phi Gamma Delta chapter at the University of Missouri. Their son has been in a coma since last October. He got alcohol poisoning during a Pledge Father reveal party. The National Fraternity and the University of Missouri both suspended the local chapter right after that incident. And this is not an isolated incident. Back in 2017, a student at Florida State died after a similar incident. That led to jail time for frat members, a settlement with the group, and an anti-hazing law that passed in Florida. Various states have proposed and passed anti-hazing legislation. Virginia's Senate recently approved Adams' Law. It would require colleges to provide a hazing prevention curriculum and calls for advisors to train students. The bill would also make public and private colleges publish their student organizations' violations of the Code of Conduct online. But are these state laws enough, or does more need to be done on the federal level? Joining us now is Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio. He's co-sponsoring two anti-hazing bills, the End All Hazing Act and the REACH Act. Senator Brown, welcome. Good to see you again.
Good to be back. Thanks.
What makes these bills personally important to you?
Well, I've seen what happens to families in Ohio where someone dies from the parent sends a child off to college, and 3 months later that child dies, and in some kind of hazing incident that a family never gets over. So we want to make sure that we shine a light on what happened and that we can prevent this in the future. I mean, no parent should. I mean, parents are always going to worry. I've had kids go off to school. I still worry about them in their 30s and 40s, but parents shouldn't have to worry about that happening just because a son's joining a fraternity or a daughter's joining a sorority. That's not the issue. The issue is this kind of activity and action that schools have to own up to.
Let's talk about these two bills a bit more. The End All Hazing Act, that's Senate Bill 775, which was introduced by Republican Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, and then Senate Bill 744, the REACH Act, introduced by Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota. Talk about what these two bills are designed to do.
Yeah, they're both bipartisan, and this is an issue that really doesn't know partisan boundaries, particularly as you'd think. It essentially says schools, first of all, we need to define what hazing actually is. There are differences of opinion. We need Health and Human Services in Washington to define what it is, working with colleges and universities and activist groups and advocacy groups define what it is, and then we've got to make sure that schools are reporting it on their crime report every year. Schools are required under federal law to report crimes on campus. This should be included in that. So when a parent thinks, okay, where am I going to send my daughter to school? Well, this school has a reputation of some hazing incidents that have resulted in deaths of students. I'm not sure I want to send my child there. So I think this is self-enforcing, because schools have to take responsibility for this, and they know if their crime report shows hazing incidents that it will dissuade some parents. So make your school as safe as possible. These bills working together will help do that.
I just want to dig in on part of what you said in terms of what the bills would do. Part of what you said is that they would define what hazing is. I imagine that's part of the challenge in terms of enforcing it, which is figuring out the line between an initiation process that may be a little messy, a little embarrassing, but not necessarily rising to the level of criminality, and then the point at which it crosses a line.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I don't have the qualifications to make that determination. And typically, we don't write that kind of language into a law because it's just too hard to do and the world changes. But the federal government passes down rules all the time on all kinds of things. They should define it again, not just unilaterally, but working with universities, working with advocacy groups, working with parents who have lost children. Because a number of them, like Stone Foltz in Ohio, where we named one of the bills after, his death has been a call to action for a lot of people. So once that definition's in place, then schools know what to stop from happening, and then those schools, if they fail, it's part of their crime report, and it affects the reputation of the school. So that as all crimes on campus do. So you don't want to send your child to a campus that's had too many crimes committed, whether it's hazing or something else. And this will help clarify that and help this sort of self-enforcement mechanism that schools will do and parents will be part of.
How do you work with colleges and universities and Greek letter organizations on something like this? I mean, I totally understand the need to keep people safe on campuses. I also understand how fraternities and sororities are a big part of campus life. I went to the University of Miami, where Greek life is very significant, partly because it was such a large commuter school. And when people commuted to campus, Greek organizations were kind of a backbone of student life on campus. So I can understand people who'd be concerned about changing the culture so much that it kind of denatures the culture of what it means to be at college.
Yeah, there's no interest from any of the sponsors, Senator Cassidy, Senator Casey, Senator Klobuchar. None of us is there an interest in dampening Greek life or saying that a sorority or fraternity can't be part of this campus. We have no interest in doing that. We do have interest in the sort of extremes that initiation might fall into or might reach that endanger students. I know it's not a challenge in fraternities. I mean, most fraternities and sororities don't have initiations that result in kids' deaths. I mean, that's unusual, but we've got to make it much, much more unusual. So HHS will, consulting with sororities and fraternities and universities and advocates and parents, will write these rules, and then the campuses will work to enforce them and make sure they're done in a way to stop these hazing deaths. But Greek life goes on, initiations go on the way that they can be done safely as they are in 99 out of 100 times.
I know I got to let you go in a second, but I wonder, Senator, if there are particular kinds of hazing that you're the most concerned about. I mean, just last week, there were parents of an alleged hazing victim who sued the Phi Gamma Delta fraternity at the University of Missouri for a victim who has apparently been on a ventilator for months now after suffering alcohol poisoning. So alcohol is one kind of hazing. Are there certain types of this behavior that, I know you're concerned about all of them, but are there certain types of it that you're most concerned about?
Well, most of it's got to do with alcohol. I mean, the deaths that I hear about and the parents I've talked to are almost always alcohol related. Then other things happen, but it's often a child dies from excessive alcohol. I mean, dies of alcohol poisoning, and it's not 2 or 3 drinks. It's the child drinking and the pressure from whoever's doing the initiation, not always a fraternity or sorority, but whoever's doing the initiation, the sort of unrelenting pressure on these kids to be one of the gang. And if you're 18 years old, I have to think back more years than you do, Joshua, to be 18. But you think of your insecurities, and you're going to respond to upperclassmen telling you what to do, and we've got to make sure these upperclassmen aren't telling them just to consume almost unlimited, excessive amounts of alcohol, because that has resulted in deaths too many times. So I think there was more specific answer to your question. It's mostly about alcohol, but they will write the rules in a way that will cover other things too.
Ohio Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown, I appreciate your time, and it's good to see you again, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks, for you too, sir. Thanks.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.